And now to the big headline from Australia. The land down under has an over-the-top problem. I'm talking about migration. It has climbed to record levels in Australia. It is adding pressure to housing, pushing rents to their highest levels and increasing infrastructure woes. So the country has come up with a plan: cut down immigration by 50%. Australia wants to have its migrant intake within 2 years. It plans to crack down on student visas and unskilled migration. But this comes with a challenge. Australia is struggling with a shortage of skilled workers. So by restricting migration, how will it invite them, skilled workers? Also, if you're planning to move to Australia, should you be concerned about all of this? Our next report tells you.
The pandemic was brutal. Most countries reacted to it with a common coping mechanism: strict border controls. Australia was part of this list. It restricted border movements during the pandemic. Inflow of people to the country reduced. It kept foreign students and workers out for nearly 2 years. And businesses faced a shortage of staff. But now the pandemic is over. Borders have long opened. And people are flocking to the land down under in record numbers. A record 510,000 people came to Australia from June 2022 to June this year. So the annual migration numbers have boosted dramatically. Sounds like good news, right? Well, it isn't. As they say, be careful what you wish for. And that's exactly what's playing out in Australia. Record level migration is putting pressure on the housing market, which has already become a growing crisis. Rents are skyrocketing, growing at their fastest rates in decades. They've increased by 7.6% in a year, the highest since 2009. Homelessness is also on the rise in the country. There's a cost of living crunch, and inflation is stubbornly high.
It's not just about this moment and the experience of migration our country is having at this time. We've got some really big national challenges that we face as a country.
Now the government has a plan. It wants a clampdown on migration. The Australian government says it will halve the migration intake within 2 years. If all goes according to plan, then migration will drop to 375,000 in 2024 and 250,000 by 2025, which will be roughly in line with the pre-pandemic levels in the country.
We are going to make sure that we bring numbers back under control, that we build a better planned system around essential things like housing, and perhaps most importantly of all, that we build a program that delivers for the national interest.
It sounds like a plan Australia needs. But is this good news for people who are planning to move there? This plan will affect some people more than others. Australia plans to crack down on student visas and unskilled migration. Simply put, visa rules for international students and low-skilled workers will be tightened. There will be tougher minimum English language requirements and more scrutiny on those applying for a second visa. But there's a slight issue here. Australia may be struggling under the burden of a lot of migrants, but it's still short of skilled workers. So with tougher migration rules, how will the country attract them? Cue the Skills in Demand visa. This is a new specialist visa. It's set to be brought in by next year. Essentially, it will speed up the entry of highly skilled workers in Australia. The processing time will be set at 1 week, which will pave the road to permanent residency. For now, the Skills in Demand visa is still under the works. But if all goes well, it will help rope in the skilled workers Australia needs, while other migration policies will reduce the burden on the country.
We have a plan to fix migration by ensuring Australia can get the skilled workers that Australia needs, but putting an end to any abuse and any rorts.
According to reports, Australia's immigration process is badly broken. It's unnecessarily complex, slow and inefficient. So could this be the reform it desperately needs? To use a cliché, only time will tell.